This is where devotion meets the beast. A space for honest conversation where growth isn't something we perform, but something that we live. Each week we come together in curiosity, devotion, and a willingness to sit with both the sacred and the messy parts of being human. Wherever you're listening from, take a deep exhale and settle in. This is where devotion meets the beast. Okay, so just dropping back into our dating conversation. We're in different t-shirts and different houses, but we're gone off to an actual date. So we are coming back, circling back, and having a chat about things that you can do to attract a positive relationship and a positive partner, and one that feels aligned to your healing journey and growth, and actually finding like intentional love, which is what we all really want to find, right? So, firstly, I feel like it's super, super important to get really clear on who you are before you try to attract a partner, because oftentimes you'll find yourself in a position where you didn't really know who you were, so you've attracted a partner that either was similar to your family dynamic, your parent dynamic, because you haven't gotten clear on who you are, what you want, and also what's important to you. So, what that looked like for me was spending time alone, having a period of solitude. I had people telling me to do this for a very long time, and if my friends that were telling me this for years are listening to this, I'm sure they'll be laughing. But the importance of taking time alone and having a period of no dating, no relationship at all, like no chatting, not actually giving energy to any kind of relationship, situationship, anything. I found that extremely confronting and also extremely healing for me to be able to like cut through the noise of like what's available versus what I actually want. As part of that, things like reading books about love, reading books about relationships, identity, all those sorts of things, because I think especially if growing up you weren't mirrored love in like a secure relationship. You know, my parents were split up at two, so I never really got to see that loving, nourishing relationship growing up, and I never really knew what that looked like. So for me, it was reading the books to understand what healthy love, healthy and secure relationships looked like.
Yeah, that's a good point about, from the age of two, you never saw your mum and dad hold the container of relationship and family consistently. I did have that, and yet relationships have come equally challenging for me and you, for example. And I I actually think the injury that gets in the way, depending on your gender and your relationship to the parents. But I really do think we attract the wound of our mother-father dynamic by who we choose. And that, yes, spending time in between partners is important to ground yourself and not just jump from one to the other. I think it's really important to do a lot of personal development work if you're finding you're not hitting the mark with the right type of person, or supporting your nervous system to be able to receive if you do attract the right type of person. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a big one too. Yeah, absolutely. The next one I had was writing a list of qualities of that person, but more importantly, how you actually want to feel while you're with that person. So I think there's a lot of like noise, and I
Mm.
know we started that conversation with, we want to attract the man with the beard and all of his teeth. We which is, it's funny to say, and for sure, like we are just making fun, but the truth is
Yeah.
like you can desire particular qualities in a man, and that's great for sure, like write down your qualities. But I think what really shifted for me was moving into how he made me feel. So things like presence. Is he present in your conversations? Does he listen? Does he reflect things back to you? Does he know how to hold space for you when you are triggered or emotional? Or those ones were really big for me, actually. Things like being self-led, feeling like, does that person have their shit together so that you don't feel like you have to carry them through a relationship? Like, these are things I think that are more important than what they look like and what they do for a job. I think those things are not as important. And yes, you probably want them to have a job, but it's important to go towards the feeling. And that way you'll actually be able to recognize if that relationship is going to land for you or not, because that's what's going to make you feel safe at the end of the day, is the way that they make you feel rather than the qualities that they have or the job that they have.
Yeah, they're great points as well. And a lot of the dating influencers talk about writing a list from feeling. I will feel, this person makes me feel, or even in the current, like that manifestation of I am feeling, being with him, I am, like writing your list as if you're in it and not like it's ahead of you down the road. And look, a really important one, I think, is writing a list of how you can make him or her feel. I think we also need to be mindful of, I am a trustworthy person, not I want to just attract a trustworthy person. So really sort of anchoring in what are your qualities that you wanting to have matched, and be realistic about that too. So yes, dropping into the feelings and even begin to feel like if that person's next to you, trusting the feeling of safety, of their consistency, reliability. Like before you can really have love, you have to have trust. What's it like to feel trust? What's it like to feel you can lean into? What's it like to have the consistency of someone showing up? I really think that's valuable.
Yeah, I actually love that. And it kind of creates a something you said there really creates another point. You said, how are you showing up in the relationship? And I think that actual activity of writing down the qualities of the other person that you're trying to attract, oftentimes you really need to look at that list and say, how many of these things am I? Because if you are not those things and you're not showing up in those ways, it's unlikely you're going to attract somebody who does. This is the mirror of life. So I think it's really beautiful shadow work to write down those things, because often it'll bring up things like, oh, hey, I actually don't do that in my life and in my relationship. So how can I shift to attract this particular partner?
Yeah, I think that's being really honest. There's a great book, and I'm trying to think of I'm looking on my bookshelf. Here it is. I really recommend this book, Calling in the One, by Katherine Woodward Thomas. She also wrote the book Uncoupling. And so it's a 7-week course, sort of workbook to attract the love of your life. And she really does make you look at yourself and ask yourself questions. So if you really want to, I love it, it's an amazing book. I did this a few years ago, and she asked some really good and sometimes difficult questions to keep you honest about your process and who you are as a partner, and building that and letting go, shedding of old stories, betrayals, mistrust, resentments, and so sort of like clean the slate for someone new. Yeah. So she's an amazing resource to do if you're really keen. Recommend doing that.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great
Mm.
idea. Um, okay, and then yeah, once you have your list of qualities and you've reflected in your shadow whether you also have those qualities, you
Yep.
can then turn that into similar what I did, turning it into a script that you can then read aloud. And as Teresa said, the script needs to be, this is already the life that the relationship that I am in. So it's not like I want this, it's I have this. So yeah, you don't have to make it difficult for yourself. Like you can drop in all your notes into AI is so accessible these days. You can drop it into AI, you can write your own, it doesn't matter. Whatever's actually going to make you do it, because don't get stuck on this part and then not do it. It's just that extra step of now reading it aloud and sort of creating like the neural pathways in your brain. And as Teresa said, in your nervous system to actually feel safe welcoming in that type of relationship.
Mm.
Um, And then, yeah, once you're clear on like who you are, what you want, what's important to you, the qualities of a relationship that you want to have in your life, then you need to move into the actual dating phase, which I would say highly suggest intentional dating, especially in this day and age, because it's scary out there. Either on the apps or off the apps. If on the apps, my suggestion is be really freaking specific with who you actually like on these apps.
Mm.
Validation is great and we all love validation, but there needs to be a lot of discernment when you're on the apps that you are not just like ticking somebody because they look nice or they look like the person that you think you could be with. If not on the apps, you first need to be energetically open. Like decide that like you're going to welcome in a relationship, because a lot of us are closed off to love and we have a lot of fear and all the things, which hopefully that shadow work before will help you move through those blocks. But you really do need to decide that you are open to receiving this type of relationship. And then once you've chosen that, you need to go out into the world, not be like me and hoping somebody comes to your door and knocks while you're Saturday night with your slippers with your cat watching a rom-com. It's not going to happen.
What?
And
What?
hence,
Ruin that for me.
I have tried this. This is tried and tested and failed. So you need to get out and about, which doesn't have to be like going to bars. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to do things that are not aligned to you. You want to meet a partner who is aligned, so you need to do things that feel aligned. Like if you love going to the beach, go to the beach, be energetically open, looking around, making eye contact with people, going to like your favorite coffee shop, go and read your book at the coffee shop on your own, take yourself on dates, be open to whatever comes your way. Some guys at my co-working space actually, I spoke to them about this when I started the whole dating thing again. They actually made a joke that, and I don't know if this is going to sound really bad, but anyway, I can cut it if it does. They were pretty much like, a woman could go out on the street and wave down a man, and almost every man would stop. They basically said it's really easy for women, that for women, we could just be open. But I disagree, because I've definitely been out and about before and like feel energetically open and be looking around and nobody comes up. So I beg to differ. But in their perspective, especially as a woman, if you are out and about doing your coffee, doing your solo date, whatever you're doing, just even down the street, picking something up at the supermarket, making eye contact. They think that eye contact is like one of the highest forms of I'm open. And for a lot of men who still have some sort of confidence after COVID, if they are available and single, they will come and talk to you. So eye contact and smiling, because apparently I have a resting bitch face, which they warned me about as well. So eye contact and smiling if you are out in the wild and you are open to having somebody come up to you organically. Um, and then, yeah, just like being open to connection. I think like we can be, if you're in a desperate energy of like, I'm going out on this solo date to find my husband, that's probably not going to work, because you're coming from a place of like scarcity, lack, tightness. You need to go
Yes.
out with no expectation of meeting said husband, which I did a few times. And I feel like you'll like this one, Teresa. I wrote down, do therapy, shadow work, body work whilst dating, so that you're moving through blocks whilst they're coming up and not getting caught up in the actual dating. Because I think it can be like super exciting when you meet someone that you have a bit of a vibe with, but not being able to discern between like chemistry and actual connection and alignment is extremely hard for somebody who is deeply feeling and not used to dating intentionally. So, yeah, making sure you have some sort of support in terms of moving through the energy that you're feeling and still seeing clearly.
Yeah.
And yeah, going slow is one that I really need to take more advice. I love that I'm reading that and I'm like, oh yeah, I should do this. Um, go go slow when you start dating. Take it slow. Don't like go from 0 to 100. Go on like one date a week with said person. Like, don't sleep with them straight away. You do want to keep some sort of distance between like falling head over heels in love with someone that you don't even know yet. So I really do, and that is something that I am very much practicing in this phase of my dating era, is just taking things slow and making sure that I'm clear to the person that I am taking things slow.
Yeah, I think I talked about it, sober dating.
Mm,
It's being emotionally sober and sexually sober. Just really making that effort to, date someone before having, obviously kiss and cuddle, but we're talking about don't cross that line, that which will create a chemical reaction. And you want that for good reason, but not doing it straight away, because when we have sex straight away and then we get very codependent, and particularly we women, we attach to our lovers. We might be, I like casual sex, and I'm certainly not judging that. But we attach very differently, or more quickly than a guy might. And so, yeah, sober dating is really important to take those mature steps towards being with someone. When you really know, you'll know. And
yeah.
it's not determined on being hooked in by having sex with someone when you haven't established many healthy understandings. Or do you share the same values? Do you even know that yet? And when you have sex, you're like, that won't matter. But it all does matter when the sex even starts to become a bit more familiar. Then really the values are what make and break how we align with someone.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like the deeper you do the healing work, especially as a woman, like once you start to really connect with your womb and understand that your vagina is a portal. And so like you are letting a man that you don't even know, you don't know what energy he's carrying. It could be extremely harmful to our energy body. And as soon as you have a sexual connection, that quite literally will shift into your body. Like I've had it happen to me before where like I have then felt that person's anxiety, or in the case for me it was like a form of anxiety. And I think it's really hard to protect yourself from another person's energy when you're having sex, because it is such a close connection.
Well, how long did it take before you realized, or even like did you feel anxiety immediately, or was it after the event? Or when did you realize you took on the other?
Pretty much straight away. I probably knew that was going to happen before I even had sex with them, which is the worst part, because I could sense it in the way that they were speaking. And it's difficult because people struggle with anxiety all the time. I struggle with anxiety myself sometimes, and it's not something to like discriminate against. But I think if it's somebody who's not willing to move through and work through their anxiety, then that's never going to go away. And that's when you need to discern, like in that moment, I should have discerned this is not somebody that I want entering my body. I have that discernment now, but I haven't always had that.
Yeah, it's a portal. And yeah, it is a portal for immense healing with the right man for both of you, you know. Yeah, that's a lovely way of putting it. I think also something to be mindful of is, because there is a lot of emphasis to love yourself first, be solid in yourself, and absolutely that is great. But I think we've also got to be mindful that it's when we're in the actual relationship that the true shadow work can come about, and the work of commitment and working out issues. And that's an amazing medicine when you both collaborate together and support each other in the personal growth. And so, like, don't be obsessed, I think is maybe the word I'm thinking about. I better read. I've still got like 5 more self-help books to read before I can go on a date or something like that. Like I think there's too much pressure, and it's not, that we can put on ourselves when you're out dating. So I mean, have a healthy boundary or understanding about, I feel better since my last relationship has ended. I'm doing some good stuff and I'm not all the way, whatever that would feel like, but I can certainly take the hand of somebody else with me and see how that goes. So just remember, the self-esteem is more on how you'll respond to the next person, not necessarily I have to be solid in myself straight away. It's more about, just having access to more personal power and having your voice. So of course you can say no and move on to somebody else, and then that just keeps building your capacity to attract the right person. But yeah, just be mindful that it doesn't have to be all solved, before you go out there. Don't you think that's important, to not get too wrapped up in this idea and ideal of what and who I should be? And I mean, I hear it a lot: raise your vibration, raise your vibration to meet someone on a higher vibration. It's like, that's a lot of, yes, I'm not dismissing the theory of that, but it also is it also can have a shadow of shame in you because my vibration's not high enough, or that next person I dated, which you experienced, that your very first date, we were all excited and half married him, it was like, and then you had this terrible heartbreak, after date one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, like it wasn't because you were not valuable or worthy or your vibration was too low. It was just, it was also about how quickly you bounced back, how you identified how it over-attached you got. And so all those things are really also part of the quest of stepping into the world of dating without being hard on yourself.
I think that's beautifully said. Yeah, at the beginning when we talked about like, figuring out who you are and what you want and what's important to you, like those things don't take long to figure out. You don't need months to figure those things out. You can sit down for a night and journal about it and you can get pretty clear on what you want. I do think that that's important to do before you start trying to date, because if you don't know what you want, then you won't recognize whether you have somebody that you're actually aligned with. That's my perspective. But I do think that where the power is like if you are able to continue your healing journey, which hopefully most people are, you can do that whilst you are dating, like at the same time, for sure. I think where the problem comes in and has come in for me personally in the past is because my codependency was so strong. Often I would get into the relationship and I would stop doing the work in terms of the relationship. I might keep working on myself, but then often what happens is then I would leave that person behind because I didn't know how to have that as like a growing relationship and, do that work together. So I think as long as you are with someone who is willing to grow and do the work with you and actually make sure you guys are building a life together, then I think that's actually a really beautiful, beautiful relationship to have. You don't have to be with somebody who's already at this level, because you can actually just like raise your vibration together in partnership.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, couple counseling, not everyone is going to survive the relationship, but couple counseling and working through what are the trigger points, and healing the injured inner child, and being a caretaker for each other's wounds. I mean, this is within reason, and we're not, this is not allowing abuse, but there's amazing potential for growth and development as a couple together. Yeah, doing that work. So, yeah, have a bit of bravery and also kindness to yourself.
And have fun too.
Fun, yeah, have fun. Fun. I love that.
Yeah, we can be so serious about topics like this. And when I say we, I mean I definitely can be really serious to this stuff and get really fixated on like exactly what you were saying. Like I want to, create this perfect person and have the perfect relationship. But when you pull it all back, all we're really looking for is for somebody who sees you, understands you, and wants to grow with you. So I think, yeah, that should be the ultimate goal at the end of the day.
Amen to that.
Amen, sister. We're so honored to have you here with us today. It's time now to take another deep exhale. Carry only what landed in your heart and leave the rest behind. Until next time, this is where devotion meets the beast.